Good afternoon. It is Sunday, 26th of June 2022. It's 7:10 in the evening. It's been a very blustery day. Lots of storms around. You can probably see the flapping canopy behind me. And in this episode, which I'm going to introduce to you now, I'm going to complete the story about our internal fit out of Josefine that I began in part 8. We finished that more or less by the end of 2019, so this video is really about 2019, and I say more or less because of course no sooner had we completed the fit out of Josefine than we had to pull it all apart again, because in 2020, the next year, despite coronavirus getting in the way a little bit, we came up to Gloucester to be at Tommy Nielsen's shipyard to begin the structural rebuilding of Josefine, which you will have already seen rather confusingly in part 1 and part 2. So after you've watched this video, apart from, yes, there'll be one more video, and then really we take up with part 1 and 2. Anyway, so this is really just completing the internal fit out. So we had to take it all out, and so therefore we've been tinkering with it ever since, I suppose. We've recently mainly put most of it back in again and repainted it. So I'm able to, apart from showing you the 2019 footage that I shot while I was planning and building the interior, I can now helpfully show you the more or less finished part. So there's some quite nice before and after photographs and video which you might find interesting. As with all the videos that we've done, I think, so far, we also like to bring you a little insight into the other stuff that we're doing in and around building the boat. It all relates to Josefine, of course, and this is no exception. So there's a little video of during the summer when Randy came over on holiday. We took the opportunity to test our Lancy transport system, Josefine's transport system. Of course, we have no vehicle, so we rely on our tender and our bicycles and trailer, and for the first time we put that to a test to make sure that it all fitted in the tender and that we could get it to the land, get it off, and put it all together. The other interesting thing about that video is we also actually had to do the shopping that day. So we, having got our cycling kit to shore and having put it all together, we then actually went and did the shopping. And so there's a little bit of video of the local area around Sharpness, and in particular the village of Berkeley, where I visited twice a week to do my food shopping. So that's interesting. It sort of shows you where I lived for a few years while I was restoring Josefine. It's a little bit about Seagull engine as well. I bought and restored a little Seagull engine for her. And at the very end of this video, there's a lovely little clip that we took at the end of 2019, when on this occasion I went over to Copenhagen to be with Randy for Christmas, and we decided to go to a place called Gilleleje. It's a little fishing port on the north coast of Denmark. And the reason we went there is because that's where Josefine was built in 1931. And so you may enjoy that. We are actually going to begin this episode by looking at boat covers. These boat covers, more specifically, you can see that they are looking a little bit battle worn, and they should, because they've been through a lot. When we first bought Josefine and brought her to Tommy Nielsen's in Gloucester, we realised that we had bitten off a little bit more than we thought we had, but we didn't really know the full extent. So the covers that we made for her at that time were sort of temporary in a way. We had no idea that they would still be on 7 years later, for example. We thought they might be on there for 12 months. And so they were made with piping, water pipe, plastic water pipes, which were bent over the hull of Josefine, and then we put some shrink wrap type of plastic on top of it. They lasted pretty well. They lasted for about 18 months. They actually got destroyed or ripped apart in a storm. And by the time we got to Sharpness, you can see here they were in a pretty sorry state and had suffered more storm damage. So we decided, and we knew by that stage just how bad a condition Josefine was in and how much work we were going to have to do on her. So we realised that we needed much better protection. And so my brother kindly came down and helped me one day after we'd actually had a bit of a storm and the old covers had suffered badly. And we built these covers, which have lasted us all that time. They've been a godsend. And one day, if there's anybody interested, I'll do a little video on the construction of these. You know, how we put them together and thinking behind them, because actually they turned out to be very important. It might not sound it, but the covers have been an extremely important part of the success of this whole project. It's really important that your covers work for you, if you like, and these certainly have worked. So there's a little bit of footage here of me and my brother taking apart the old ones and reconstructing or constructing the new covers down at Sharpness. All the fixtures and fittings were built first, and then the floor was laid around them. So everything that you see here above floor level was installed first, and then we laid the floor. So if you take away these skirting boards, for instance, all around the boat, you've got clear access underneath all the furniture. Behind here, for instance, is the heads, the toilet is here and the tank is there, so it's really good to get to the plumbing. Same in the galley here. Same applies throughout the boat. Works really well. And by the way, a tip as far as flooring is concerned, DIY shops, certainly here in the UK, sell, remarkably, solid wood flooring. Like, for instance, this is oak, solid oak, incredibly cheap prices. And I think the way it works is they supply their relatively short lengths, and it's the wood is full of all sorts of blemishes and knots, and I think it's probably cast-offs from more expensive productions. And what they then do is they cover it with a resin which they colour and pattern to suit the current domestic home market. So what you can do is, if you buy some cheap and nasty, I say cheap and nasty, it looks, some of it looks cheap and nasty. If you buy, which is what we did, we picked a very unpopular brand. It was a very dark colour, and we bought it at the end of the season when it was being sold even more cheaply, and then strip off the resin, take all the resin off, and reveal the lovely natural flaws and blemishes of the solid oak floor below it. And that's what this is. So that's cheap B&Q planking, which for the whole boat cost 30 quid. And we then stripped off all that horrible resin that was on top of it, and to reveal a really nice floor. What we also then did was we made it in, because they supply it in short lengths, I think a metre or so long, like this. This is probably about the longest piece here. We made them into nice panels. We backed them with some plywood there to hold everything together and to fit into that space there, look, in between the floors. So you see really good access to the bilge underneath. You see the frames of the boat there. And we fitted these pull rings here so that we could lift them all up. And that goes for every single panel on the boat. So you see here we've got access to some plumbing underneath there and the gas pipe. Same here, just outside the heads, look. Good access to the pump and everything else underneath there. Same principle throughout the boat, so it's really good access. So that's a good little tip for you. For, you know, 30 quid, you've got a really nice floor. while I'm around this side, I can just show you I've made as good use as possible of storage space. A little bit of space underneath the fridge where I've just made a nice long drawer. And while I'm about it, I can show you today, that's 2022, that lovely top I spoke about in part 8 when I showed you the fit out, the beginnings of the fit outs of this part of the boat. This was the American black walnut that I talked about that we got. Really lovely wood. Made a lovely, this is our galley island, as you can see. We put it all the way, it actually goes behind here into our pantry all the way back. Lovely piece of wood. It didn't all work out the way I originally intended, but actually we like it the way it has. These inserts were originally supposed to come from the piece that to match the piece that was cut out of, and we couldn't do that, so they came from different ones, and you can see they're a little bit odd, but actually we quite like the effect. So underneath here you have the double sink, and these can be reversed, so if I turn them over you actually get a slightly different look about them. So yeah, we're really quite pleased with that. And the rest of the boat I think I introduced to you in part 8. I think I was mentioning that I was going to obtain a piece of furniture to go in here. In the end I couldn't find anything, so for the moment I've just made this. It's, you know, it's cheap and cheerful. Nice little cabinet there, that's our pantry. I've just got to put some fiddles across here to stop anything falling out. Obviously nothing can come out the bottom, so that's got to be modified slightly, but that works nicely. All the lighting is discreet, it's all hidden behind the various deck beams and things, so you've got some nice lighting here. Goes for everything really. Here in the library, for instance, I put all the lighting up behind here. It's all LED, very low cost. You know, it doesn't consume very much electricity. You remember here, you remember the fireplace that I showed you, and over there our saloon. I think you've seen all that. The only thing you haven't seen is that recently we painted it. We painted it the 2 sort of shades of green. We're still experimenting a little bit. We're very happy with that. I've got some motifs and things to paint on these seat backs. You remember that little bit of oak I got to make the table, and I showed you that in part 8. What I didn't show you, because it wasn't made at that time, because that video, remember, was back in 2019, was this doorway, which I made, the wood I got that I made the table from, I had enough left over to make this door. I had to add a little bit in at the bottom there. And that rather nice little carving of a fisherman, this one here, was, funnily enough, it used to be on our narrowboat, and it was in a place where nobody really saw it. In fact, I only came across it when we sold the boat, and I was going around the boat, and I suddenly came across it and thought, wow, I'd forgotten about that. So we actually took it off there. No one could see it on the narrowboat anyway, and it's far more appropriate on a fishing boat like Josefine. So that's on there. The library area I think you've already seen. A very nice picture that Randy's sister, I think, gave us. I broke the glass recently. I've got to put a new glass in there. That's Copenhagen in, I haven't got my glasses on, I think it's 19th or 18th century view of Copenhagen with immigrants, I think, coming into Copenhagen. The fridges and everything you saw. Oh yes, the only thing you didn't see was this, which is our nav station, and a full-sized nav table. I really wanted a table that could take a full Admiralty chart, so I picked the biggest Admiralty chart that I could find, and I made it big enough to lay one out. And the way this works is, again, actually, I'll just nip round again and show you the recycling, because I mentioned the use of recycled wood. This is made from an old sideboard which my elder brother gave me. Actually, it was being thrown away. So what I did was I took out the middle cabinet door and threw that away, or used it for something else, I forget. Shortened these doors. I cut down the 2 doors on either side. I had to shorten them to make a large enough gap in the middle to turn it into a sort of a faux desk. Obviously it has to be shaped to fit the sloping sides of the boat. Lovely fittings, these lovely brass fittings. So yes, took that out, shortened the sides, cut the whole thing down. Actually it was too wide. Cut these pillars so that they could go into the quarters here. The drawers, I took the fascia of the drawers off and fixed them, cut this one shorter so it fitted inside, and these are now fixed in. They're no longer drawers, okay? And the reason for that is because instead of drawers, what I needed was a compartment below for all the charts. So it's now the chart underneath is where we store the charts. The shelf here you will see in this video, I think I've included it, which is an oak with veneered in walnut, which was a beautiful piece of wood, and these lovely carved shelf brackets. They're not really, all of this actually came from an old French bed. That's not how, they weren't made as brackets, but I made them into brackets. So there you can see it there, and that made a really, really nice shelf. These lights were originally in the cabin, and I restored them. And we were so impressed with them that we actually tracked them down online and bought new ones to go in the wheelhouse. So really pleased with that. You can see my little light fittings here. Again, all discrete lighting under here. There's a nice bright one there for the galley, and there's discrete lighting behind all these beams in here as well. The other recycled wood I've already spoken about is the wood I made those cabinet doors out of. Was originally the old teak capping rail on top of the original Josefine capping rail. What else was this is all recycled. This post, that desk, that was a bed. This was a display board from the 1960s, lovely piece of oak. The tops of the seats here, which have got storage underneath, the most important storage by the looks of it there, that's full of red wine. These planks here were the original sole that was in here. That I told you was being thrown away, 2-inch piece of oak. It came out of a pub, a sort of a theme pub. This came from a friend who was burning it on behalf of a client. It's an old stair rail. I talked about that, I think, in part 8, actually. The mast will come down through here, so that's where the hole has to be drilled. I think I mentioned this was a cheap piece of furniture, cost £15, that's about $15. And these oak bookshelves were also being thrown away. My brother gave me those as well, so that was really nice. The cooker was restored. This is a leg off an old table, and the other one is in there. Table or chair, I forget which. So one went in there and one's gone over there. This was the original Look Vertreitment. What does that translate to? Habitat for 3 men. That's the original crew, I suppose, of the fishing boat. The clock, that was, I think, £7.50 from a charity shop. It wasn't originally working, but we got it working, so that's really nice, solid brass. So you see, you can, for very little money, if you search around and use your imagination, you can, you can do wonders. I think that's all of the recycling. I can't think of anything else. That door, which is through into the engine room, by the way, that I couldn't show you that last time, could I, in part 8, because I didn't have it on. I've got lighting in here now. Those panels are for one of the box berths, by the way. So we put the flooring down in here, made that cabinet, and you can see recently I made some shelving over there, some racks for our fenders, keep them out of the way. We have access at the back of the wheelhouse, just to the right there. There's access down a ladder into the engine room. So getting access to the fenders is nice and easy. The mizzen mast sits there just in front of those 2 greasing points. It's all very bright at the back of there because the deck hasn't been laid yet. So that's all nicely done in here. We're all nice and neat and tidy. Everything working. Turn those off. And oh yes, the heads. I don't think I just come in here and turn the light on. I didn't show you the heads last time. We're still working on this. You can see, you know, we need to put a toilet roll in, for instance, a toilet roll holder in at the moment. So yes, we're working on this at the moment, but you can see it's pretty much there. We put mirrors in. That's always helps in a small space, and it's a wet room, so you shower in here. There is a shower curtain that comes across here, and the shower head, which sits up here when you shower, also fits here and doubles as taps for the hand basin, rather than have to double up with taps and things. Makes life much easier and simpler. So there's a little bit of work in there to do, lots of finishing off to do. We're looking for a nice piece of old wood to go in here. So it's by no means finished in here. It's very close to it, and of course we have to put on our sort of personal stamp, if you like. It's all a little bit austere at the moment because it's, you know, it's just been built. It's not it doesn't have all our homely trappings and things in here. When it's been lived in for a year, it'll, you know, it'll be a little bit softer and a little bit more comfortable, but it's got all the makings of a nice living space. I mean, we are living in it, and we love it. You know, we're enjoying it. You know, we've cleared away, for the sake of this video, we've cleared away all our junk, so it does look a bit austere, I suppose. And that's it. Cupboard space in there. So that then takes us to, I think, the main cabin. There'll be a doorway, by the way, in here. Let me just put my light up. And you can see I've also made some progress in here. I'm actually working in here at the moment with the cladding, the original pine cladding. What I've done is I've stained this. It's a rosewood coloured stain. I rather like it. It's very traditional looking. That's a 2 coats, and that's what it will all look like. At the moment, the rest of it has only had 1 coat, so it's not quite as dark as it will be. I finished the port side. I've made the cladding up against the ship's frames, as you can see, with my flooring planking, and I shall do exactly the same on this side, on the starboard side. With the bed, I cut the top off because it was rather comical. It was so high you could actually hardly climb into the bed, and it had the sort of cot sides were sort of so exaggerated. And the water tanks have been cleaned out. Everything's working now. What have I got to do? I've got to buy a mattress in here. That's pretty much it. All the storage space underneath the bed has been removed, painted, created. And all the ballast, as you can see between the frames, has been cleaned up. Anything loose has been removed, and everything has been painted with a black bitumen paint. This cupboard space here, I took the fascia off because, again, it was a little rustique is a kind way of describing it, but I've taken that off, so I'm looking for a really nice piece of furniture to finish that off, to put the fascia on it. I shall do the same on the starboard side. Here I have built storage space again. This is going to be the main storage for clothing. So I've built this framework, so this will be locker space inside here. And then the rest of it, all the clothing, is actually be hung up on one long rail, the full length, almost the full length of the cabin here. And then rather than build a solid fascia on here, which I thought would be sort of awkward to use, I felt that putting a fascia here would mean you'd have to have cupboard doors, and it would necessarily, obviously, once you build an aperture for a doorway, for a cabinet doorway, you reduce the space, so you'd have a smaller space to access, to get into it. So what I've done, lighting in here, we've replaced the combing around this hatch, so that's all finished off nicely now. I can't remember whether I showed you an image actually of in here originally. I'll see if I can find it, but when we first bought the boat, there'd obviously been a leak along the top of this deck beam, and somebody had put a piece of wood and nailed it down from above, and the nails had missed and were all sort of arranged alongside this deck beam. I mean, it was quite comical, really, but it'd obviously been there for a very long time, judging by the state of the nails. And you wonder, you think, how could anybody live with it like that? I mean, weren't they embarrassed? Why they just cut them off, if nothing else? They weren't doing anything. Anyway, so that's all nicely finished now. Here we decided to use louvered doors. That worked really well. Of course, it provides plenty of ventilation. On this side, it's all a bit dusty because, you know, we're still working all the time. So you have a cabinet in here, a lot of my filming stuff in there. That's all been made nice. And then, of course, the chain locker in here, which is all... you know, the bits are being painted. You can see all the new planking that's gone in there. Still got the anchor. We've got a big hole there where we've got the anchor horse pipe to go in. So we're still working on that. And then on this side, this is the sail locker, which is doubling at the moment for other sort of storage. All these remove, and that will become our sail locker. And then on this side, as you can see, these were the curtains I talked about. Oh, by the way, that was the other recycling. These curtains were bought in a charity shop. I had to modify them to go around the deck beams, as I've already discussed. And behind here we have an enormous space for our clothing. There's my few coats there. I only own a little bit of clothing. Randy owns the rest, so she's got plenty of room for all her stuff. And locker space underneath here. With more of Randy's clothing. I'm joking, of course. She's forever complaining that I take up too much space. So that worked out really nice. And a little bit of discreet lighting in there as well. Yes, recycling. Here was the rest of that French bed. These posts here were part of that French bed, which I fitted onto the outside of the original bed that was here, and that made it look nice. Made that little step, that's again out of recycled wood, so that we can step up into the bed. We'll probably have to put some lee cloths of some sort on here. What I'm thinking actually of doing is to make, for safety reason, a ladder that we can make an escape hatch through here, because this obviously pushes off when it's unlocked. So I think I'm going to make a ladder that fits in here. As I say, it's an escape hatch, and make the ladder dual purpose so that it hangs at the side of the bed here and can be pulled up like a cot, you know, so in rough weather, you know, you've got a nice sort of lee boards there. That's my thinking at the moment anyway. So you can see that we're still tinkering with everything. You can see the base, all the curtains being cut now and stitched. And a nice little step there put in place. Again, access to pumps and bilges, and a nice little rug down here as well, and some bits and pieces. As I say, it lacks a little bit of our personal touch in here, but yeah, we've really got it together in here, I think. Hi everybody, it's that time of year again, December the 28th, 27th. And what better place to be on a cold December day than walking along a beach. Brendan and I had a mad idea this morning to leave at 5 o'clock from our nice warm apartment in Copenhagen. And we've come to Gilleleje. We're in Gilleleje. It's a fishing village on the northernmost coast of the island of Sjælland, north of Copenhagen. And the reason we've partly come here, apart from the joys of walking along a beach, is because Josefine, our lovely Josefine, was built here in 1931. And so yeah, we made a mad decision to get up this morning at 5 o'clock to come here for the day out. So.
Fingers a bit cold.
Ja,
Simmer sammen. Det er en svensk båd, den der. Look at that little veranda. It's like Pippi Longstockings. You know, the little veranda there on the house. That's our bell hanging there.
Oh yeah.
What is the truth but to live for an idea? Gilleleje, 1835. Søren Kierkegaard was born in 1813 till 1855.
And this apparently was his favourite spot to come and philosophise and get away from the smog of 19th century Copenhagen. Can't blame him really, can you?
It was quite far down, didn't it?
It is far down.